Canadian Prime Minister and relentless apology machine Justin Trudeau is visiting India right now, and sadly for him, it's not going well. Trudeau has embarrassed his country and annoyed many Indians by dressing up in ludicrous Indian national garb, ludicrous on him, and nearly meeting a violent Sikh extremist for dinner. Recently, though, Trudeau also was mansplaining to Canadians that they should not use the word mankind, and a U.S. school agrees. A writing guide at Purdue University, accredited school, apparently tells students to avoid words like mailman and mankind in order to have, quote, non-sexist, non-biased writing. Kathy Aru is founder and publisher of Catalina Magazine, and we think she agrees, and she joins us tonight. Kathy, it's great to see you.
Hi, good to see you.
I got to say, there's kind of a basic irony here. I mean, you're lecturing us about sexism while you're sitting right now in Manhattan.
Manhattan. We need to rename the city then. The Big Apple. The Big Apple would be less offensive. So I feel that I'm sitting in the Big Apple, not Manhattan.
Okay, but why stop there? Why should the post office deliver mail?
I know. Well, it's spelled M-A-I-L, so that's okay. If it's M-A-L-E, then there's a problem.
Homonyms count, and this applies to email too, because it's not about spelling, it's about being gender inclusive.
Right.
And mail is offensive. We've just learned that.
So. Well, no, I don't think they're including that, but they are saying that society has changed and times are changing, and we don't want to be offensive in our language. And they're trying to be non-sexist and non-biased, and that means trying to take the word man out. So instead of man-made, it would be synthetic. So instead of mailman, it would be mail carrier. So there's many ways to go around it. Instead of humanity, you should say people.
But mail carrier still has mail in it, so you haven't. It's kind of a fake. Oh, but that's a Dodge.
Or package carrier. Well, we can come up with so many other terms that are less offensive. Yeah.
You might still offend dyslexics. You can change a vowel, but it sounds the same. It has that dreaded word that sends people shrieking for their safe spaces, mail.
Well, they're saying man. Man is the word that they're trying to avoid. They're saying that the word man is associated with adult men as opposed to just humanity or humans. So they're trying to avoid the word man. So if we can eliminate that word, then things would be much better and people would be less offended.
Well, what if you lived in Manchester, Vermont?
Well, they might have to change the name of the city if people agree with Purdue University. And Purdue University found that things need to be updated, and they updated their writing guide to take out these words that apparently are offending certain groups of people.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand the rule, if something offends somebody, even if you've never met that person personally, you have to change it. So doesn't that mean that a small group of super unhappy people get to control what the rest of us say and think?
Well, perhaps they're ahead of their time. Maybe this is something that is offending a small group, but the group's going to get larger, and times are changing, and our language is dynamic. Webster keeps adding new words in the dictionary, so our language needs to change. And a term that used to be non-offensive, like man-made and mailman, now needs to be changed.
Well, I get that. I guess the question for me is who gets to decide what changes and what doesn't. So, for example, I think I've now decided that the most offensive word in the language is college professor.
Oh.
Okay? Because to me that connotes dumbness and misuse of power and tenure, right? And mediocrity. So maybe I'd like to say no one can use that word ever again in my presence because it offends me. Would that fly? Could I do that? Could I pull that off?
Well, if you have a writing guide, perhaps, and you put that out there and people agree with you, then yeah, maybe that would fly. But Purdue University did find a group that agreed with them, and the university backed them up, and there you have it. They have a writing guide that now is going to teach us how to not offend.
But do you think they have the guts? I mean, it's one thing to bully the little rich kids who go to your school, because, like, what do they know? But do you think they have the guts?
This is the heart of America.
Yeah, no, of course. But if you're paying, like, 60 grand or whatever it is for, like, the fake diploma you get, you know, and you're not working, obviously you have privilege by definition, no matter who's paying for it. But but it's easy to boss them around. Do you think they would have the guts to go to Goldman Sachs in New York and say, change your name now or else?
They probably wouldn't shop there. They probably wouldn't shop there because
what if they were shopping at Goldman Sachs? They might come up short. Because it's a bank.
Because the name man is adult male, and yeah, we need to change it. Like woman, I mean, has the word man in there, so just call us a person.
So gold person sacks, would that be better?
I think so. I'm less offended. Yes.
And by the way, what if you just, since the rule is if you spell it, and I'll stop with this because I know this is angels on the head of a pin at this point, but if you spelled man differently, like M-A-A, so it was male man, but M-A-A-N.
No,
would
the
you get past
profession,
the
we know
censors?
that the professions usually were male-dominated, and they've changed. So no, saying male man and spelling it differently, that doesn't apply. We're trying to say this profession now applies for men and women or persons, all people. No
Wait,
man
but isn't
needed.
there a man?
No
Hold
man
on,
needed.
isn't there a man in the word woman?
Call me a person. I'd be less offended. No need for
Wow.
woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the end, the revolution always eats itself, as we often point out. Kathy, thank you for that guided tour of the linear regions. Appreciate it. In a recent piece for the Harvard Crimson, which is a school newspaper but considers itself so much more, graduate student Daniel Hanrahan reproached himself for what is now a sinister crime. He discussed the attractiveness of the opposite sex. Hanrahan says he was out drinking during the orientation for his class last year when his fellow students raised the matter of which girls in their class were, quote, the hottest. With horror, Hanrahan says he failed to object, to declare that calling women pretty is a form of objectification that could lead to assault. Instead, he says, and I'm quoting, I uncrossed my arms, and yes, I discussed which girls were hot. Apparently, Cambridge is no better than a Boko Haram camp. Kathy Rue, founding publisher of Catalina Magazine. She joins us tonight. Kathy, you are our Sherpa, you're our Tenzing Norgay, our spirit guide into the brave new world of progressive America, into the cultural revolution now taking place.
Thanks.
I didn't know, so thank you for that. I didn't know that this was a crime now.
Well, I mean, it's objectifying women, so that's always been a crime to objectify women, not seeing them as intelligent creatures, intelligent people that they are, but to see them at Harvard as just hot, I mean, that's not right.
Well, how about if a woman is intelligent? Not all people are intelligent, by the way. Some are, some aren't. Same with men, right?
Right.
But is it okay to acknowledge that you find someone attractive, or is that, as Mr. Hanrahan suggests, a form of assault?
Well, he felt that it was wrong because they had a group of guys sitting around and they weren't talking about how intelligent and wonderful these women are. They were talking about their physical attributes and that they were ranking them on a scale of 1 to 10 according to how hot they were. And he felt it was wrong. He felt that he was objectifying women, and he felt that he was creating and helping a culture of rape, he said, on the campus of Harvard. So.
But But they weren't raping people, were they? Weren't they just saying
Harvard
which girls they found attractive?
They have a high incidence of rape. They have a high incidence of objectifying women, and 30% of women graduate from Harvard saying that they're victims of sexual assault.
Right, but
so
okay.
it is a problem at Harvard. There is a problem.
Look, I don't know where you got those stats, but I mean, in this specific case, these men weren't planning to go out and assault anybody. Weren't they just saying, like, I find this girl attractive? Do you?
Well, we don't know what these men did.
Right?
We don't know what they did, but we do know that men were behaving badly and are behaving badly at campuses around the country. And now we find out that at Harvard, these guys are speaking inappropriately about women, and that is
saying
wrong.
Which ones they find attractive. So is this a transferable crime? I mean, if a bunch of women are sitting around and they say, you know, I think that guy is kind of attractive, or I think he's hot, or whatever.
Women are not the ones. They're not the ones committing the rapes.
So they're allowed to say that?
Well, women aren't harming anyone. So sure, if women aren't harming anyone, that there is no problem that women do this. But if men are actually harming women, which we know they are, then yeah, that is a problem.
So because some men harm, I'm just trying to get the standards here, as I always do when you come on, just trying to figure out the new rules.
All right, sorry.
America's, very different from what it was last week. So because some men harm women, no men are allowed to say they find any woman attractive, but because no women harm men, all women are allowed to say they find men attractive. Is that the rule?
It's very rare for men to be objectified and go through experiences like sexual assault. That's just a fact.
But
women
am I right? Is that the rule? Look, the rest of us are looking on, especially those of us over 40, looking on in horror. We see the country changing. We have no idea who makes these rules.
It's changing for the better.
Maybe so, but changing, and change is hard. And whoever makes these rules, like, no one gets a heads up about what the new rules are. They just kind of appear, and then you're held to account on the basis of those rules. So I'm just trying to get from you an accounting of what the rules are so I don't break them.
Well,
So,
the rules are, society is dictating the rules right now, not the law, but society is dictating the rules, and society is saying that men can't get away with this kind of human behavior
who's
anymore.
society?
It's
I mean, I'm just
unacceptable.
but who's in charge? Is there like a basement room somewhere where a bunch of like people who are somehow in charge are writing these
women
rules?
are
Women
speaking
are.
up. There's a movement going on. We have the Me Too, hashtag Me Too movement that's going on. So women are speaking up, and we're holding men to a higher standard. We're letting them know that they can't get away with this anymore.
Can't get away. But I wonder, okay,
this behavior,
look, by the way,
this
just to be
behavior.
totally clear, as
Yep.
always, I couldn't be more opposed to assaulting or hurting women.
Right.
I have, 4 in my own house who
I know.
I love more than anything.
I know.
So, of course.
It's not you.
But
It's not
I
you.
just want to, I wonder if you've thought this through. I mean, so if it's now a crime to think or say that a woman's attractive, do you feel like maybe you or women in general might lose something in a society where men were too afraid to say they thought you were attractive?
It's not right to objectify a woman. It's not right to see a woman only as an attractive human being.
Okay,
These guys
but
at Harvard were not sitting around.
What if you say, I respect you in many ways, but I also find you attractive?
But
Would
that's
that
not
be
what this
assault as
op-ed
well?
writer said. He said he felt wrong. He wanted to speak up, and instead he helped these guys treat these women
No,
like
he
they were
didn't.
lesser.
Let me just ask you,
That's what he
let
said.
me just drop all the pretense and ask you a totally honest question, man to woman.
What?
You have a little bit of contempt for this guy, don't you? Here he is. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't assault anybody. He's filled with self-hatred because he said he thought a woman was attractive. You can't respect a man like that. I mean, let's be honest.
He didn't say that he found a woman attractive. He was sitting around drunk with a bunch of guys who we don't know what they did the next day, and they were saying that women were hot on a scale of 1 to 10.
Ooh,
So,
women
I
were
mean,
hot. Whoa. All right.
we don't know what they did.
Yeah, call the police. Kathy, thank you.
Thank you.